Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Throat Punch Lunch, episode 43, Polishing Aluminium. You might be thinking, as am I, what in the world am I thinking naming this episode Polishing Aluminium? First of all, you spelled the name of the metal wrong. No, I actually didn't. Go check it out. Anyway, here's the thing. I was watching this video on YouTube about some fad that apparently is going on in Japan right now, a DIY project where you take an aluminum ball, you crush it up, and then you polish it on the outside. A very long, tedious process as far as I can tell, to where it looks like a polished steel ball. It actually looks pretty cool once you get it all said and done, but man, the stuff that you got to go through to get it that way, I'm probably not going to do that. But got me thinking, what can I do to polish Throat Punch Lunch? And so that's what I'm wanting to do. I'm asking you guys, email me at this email address that's right down here, and let me know what kind of segments you guys would like to see. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of the segments that we have going on right now. As a matter of fact, I like all of them. I think they're all great segments, but at the end of the day, what I like isn't really necessarily the key. It's what you guys want to watch. What are you looking for in these kinds of shows? And while I'm not going to hand over complete choice or final decision making to you guys, what I am going to do is hopefully pair what you guys want to see and what I like. And so we do have some new contributors that are hopefully coming on board here in the near future as a result of the last episode and the request that I put out there. So give us some ideas about stuff that you would like to see, and we'll go from there. We do have one new contributor this week. It's called Doug and Doug Gaming. So it's a father-son team, and they're going to be talking about the different kinds of gamers that they game with at their local game stores. So that's a pretty cool, diversified look at gaming at a local game store, different people that they game with on a regular basis. So that's looking pretty cool. So they have an introductory segment this time. And then, of course, I have a lot of my main contributors that are just back, keeping it steady, chugging along, and doing the best they can. We have a lot of great segments. I'm biased, I know. I'll stop talking now so we can get to the rest of your lunch. Let's get to it.
Hi, this is Ambie from Boardgame Blitz, and this is Strategically Thematic, a segment where I talk about theme in different strategic games. This time, I'm talking about Dinosaur Island. Dinosaur Island is a game where players are competing to build the best dinosaur theme park, getting different attractions and getting different dinosaurs to try to get the most visitors to your park. There's a lot of planning you need to do to get your park to be really good, so the game is very strategic, but it's also really thematic in the way the game plays. Firstly, in order to make dinosaurs, you need to do a couple different things. You need to have DNA, there's different types of DNA, and you collect them, and you also need to research the dinosaur. So each dinosaur has different types of DNA that you need, and you need to know how to make it, and then you need to spend the DNA to make the dinosaur. When you add a dinosaur to your park, it adds excitement to your park, which makes your visitors come, because visitors will only come to a dinosaur theme park if there are dinosaurs there. The other rides and food stands and stuff don't mean anything to them. But the dinosaurs will also add threat to the park because they can be dangerous to the visitors. So when you build a dinosaur, you have to increase the threat level of your park. Something that you can do to mitigate this risk is by adding security to your park. So basically, if you have a good amount of security, the dinosaurs won't be able to get out of their cages and eat visitors. But your threat level minus your security level is actually how much damage the dinosaurs will do. And when your threat level is too high, the dinosaurs will end up eating your visitors, which is bad. Something that's pretty thematic in the game is that you'll get money for all of the visitors that line up and go to your park, but then if the dinosaurs eat some of the visitors, you still got the money that they paid you, but you just don't get points for them. So it's not good for visitors to get eaten, but you still get their money. There are also a lot of other things you can buy to help you, like lab upgrades that help you research better, or you can buy restaurants or rides for your park that visitors can go on when they're not looking at the dinosaurs because they need other things to do. So it's a lot of fun just building up your park to make it the best it can be, either by having a lot of dinosaurs or some dinosaurs and some other attractions, or whatever way you want it to be. Thanks for watching Strategically Thematic. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Hey everybody, it's Jay, and it's time to talk about your Flair. On 15 pieces of Flair, I'm going to show you guys some ways to spruce up that game room. A follower of mine, Will Andrews, sent me a ton of game boxes, expansion boxes, a bunch of boxes that were just collecting dust in his closet in his house somewhere. And he sent them to me. In return, I told him I'd make him a couple pieces of Flair and send those back to him. So he told me one of his favorite games is Arcadia Quest. So I made him this clock, and let's check out how I made it. What? I already made a clock and showed you guys how to make one? Well, another one of Will's favorite games is Champions of Midgard, and I'm going to show you how I made this dice tower out of the expansion boxes. Alrighty then, for this project we're going to need a cutting mat, some game boxes, oil rubbed bronze spray paint, although it's not totally necessary for this project. We're going to need some dice tower stencils, some scissors, a T-square or any straight edge, a permanent marker, an X-Acto knife with some spare blades just in case, some glue, and not pictured is large binder clips. So first, I use this spray paint to paint the backs of the boxes in a well-ventilated area. This step isn't totally necessary, but it will produce a more refined look at the end. While those dry, you can go ahead and cut out your stencils with the scissors. Once the paint is dry, you can go ahead and use the permanent marker to draw the outline of a stencil on one of the boxes and cut it out with an X-Acto knife. Always cut away from yourself. As a survivor of a freak wood whittling project, I can say that you never want to cut towards yourself. Also, the T-square is so helpful with making cuts, especially straight lines, so be sure to use a straight edge of some sort. Once you've got the outline of that one cut out, move to the other stencil and do the same process with it. Notice there are two different size stencils though. You want to make sure you don't cut the same thing twice. Once that's cut out, go ahead and make your center lines and score them. When you go to do your score, only cut about halfway into the cardboard and make your fold along the score. You can then make the two flaps on the front piece with the same technique. So my boxes I used ended up being too small for the ramps to be cut out of the same box, so I had to use a different box. I went ahead and drew the ramp stencils onto the back of a Rail Raiders Infinite box, then cut those out. To conceal the different box, I completely painted both sides of those with the oil rubbed bronze spray paint also. Once both sides of those ramps are completely dry, you can start cutting out the slots for the ramps. To easily get the dimensions of the slots, I cut a slit into the stencil. Then I used that slit and drew over it with a permanent marker onto the box. The slots need to be much thicker than just a simple slit through the cardboard. It will need to have a decent sized slot cut into it to fit the ramp. So you'll have to make a couple cuts apart from each other and then pull out the chunks. Then go ahead and cut the other slots for the other two ramps. Then insert the ramps. Once those are all cut out and you've got your ramps in, you can glue both sides together. Since we're going to want the tops flush, we'll flip the tower over onto its top. I filled in the crevices created by the scoring and folding to prevent those folds from ripping any further. Then I glued where the pieces would meet. I rested the tops of both pieces onto the table, then clipped the sides together using the binder clips. Some glue will squeeze out and you can wipe it off with your finger. Be sure to wipe any that squeezed out under the clips also. Let that dry overnight, remove the clips, and then you're ready to roll. Boom, there you have it. A quick and easy way to add some more functional flair to your game room. I've made a dice tower, a clock out of old dusty game boxes that are just probably thrown in a closet or whatever, just collecting dust. I'm hoping to show you guys some more ways that you can utilize them without just having to throw them away and put them to good use. So thanks again, Will, for sending me all those boxes and everything. And I'd like to just take a second and say, Asher, you know who you are, buddy. Your mom was telling me how much you enjoy my stuff, so I just wanted to give you a shout out here. Thanks for watching my videos. Thanks for being so enthusiastic about it. I hope you can start making some of your own stuff, and I hope you send me some pictures of it because I'd love to see it, buddy. So Asher, just wanted to give you a quick shout out, buddy. So what's up, Asher? So if any of you guys have any suggestions on games or ideas you'd like me to make into some flair, leave them in the comments below or just hit me up anywhere on social media. Don't forget, guys, 15 pieces of flair is the bare minimum. Some people choose to do more, and we encourage that. Have fun, everybody.
Throw Punch Lunch. My name is Bobby, and this is these Totally Geeky Games, where I make some recommendations of those games for those friends of ours with interests outside of our hobby. This week, the geeky interest that is outside of our hobby will be something that's really close to our hobby, kind of adjacent to our hobby, if we consider our hobby to be board and card games, which is mostly what Dice Tower covers, although not exclusively. The hobby that I'm talking about is RPG, tabletop, Dungeons and Dragons style games. I may use one of those three terms throughout, but I think you might know what I'm talking about when I talk about that kind of group of games. If they like those kinds of games, what games would you recommend to them? Well, as you probably know, just because of how much intersect there is between board and card games and RPG games, there's a lot of games that you could introduce them. I'm going to take my stab at it and give you a few, and I'm sure there's many that I missed, so let me know in the comments section what I missed, and maybe this segment will serve more to open up the conversation rather than me just tell you a definitive list of games to recommend to people that like RPG games. First, I'd recommend Munchkin. Munchkin's a great gateway game. No, I mean, despite what some people may think of Munchkin, it has introduced many people into our hobby. It has the customizable abilities. It has items that you could attach to characters. It has kind of the level up mechanic, and it has kind of the bust the door down and kill everything in the room mechanic. And it's pretty humorous. And additionally, at this point, there's a wide variety of themes that are attached to the Munchkin game that you could pretty much find out what your friend likes. Do they like Adventure Time? Do they like Marvel Comics? Do they like steampunk stuff? And draw them into Munchkin that way. Munchkin might not be the best game to stick to just because there is a really strong take that mechanic. So from there, I might focus more on the cooperative nature of RPGs and recommend some games that way, or maybe the one versus all nature. I would additionally find out what that friend likes about those RPG games. And if they like tactically taking this character that they've customized over time with different abilities and defeating a monster or some kind of creature, then, well, they're in luck because there's so many games that our hobby offers that they may be interested in. I would just recommend finding a theme that they like, getting that RPG game, finding what the theme is, and seeing if there's a theme or a game that mirrors that theme or incorporates that theme into the game. I'm talking about all the dungeon crawl games that our hobby has to offer. If they like fantasy, introduce them to Descent or Sword and Sorcery. If they like Star Wars, introduce them to Imperial Assault. If they like Ninja Turtles, introduce them to Ninja Turtle Shadows of the Past, which is actually a really solid game where you get the characters with customizable abilities, you get the dice combat, and you get the scenario-driven, story-driven campaign type of thing. Are they really attached to the Pathfinder RPG game? Introduce them to Pathfinder Adventure card game. Are they really attached to the D&D lore? then introduce them to the D&D dungeon crawl games. I think you get my idea. Find whatever theme they're attached to and find a dungeon crawl that incorporates that theme. Do they like the story element? Well, then they're also in luck because there's a lot of storytelling games that are pretty good in our hobby. I would personally recommend Legacy of Dragonholt. Legacy of Dragonholt takes at least the fantasy RPG type gameplay and puts it into a storytelling game. That's all I'll say about it without spoiling it. Or do they like building the characters at the onset of a campaign? There's even a solid Euro game based on that called Role Player. I'd introduce them to Role Player if I thought that that friend would really enjoy Euro games and happens to like RPG as well. It's literally just a Euro game about building a character for an RPG game. So these are some games that I would recommend to an RPG player. What games have I missed? I'm sure there's a ton of games that I've missed. So like I said, maybe this segment will just open up conversation about that. Let me know in the comments and let everybody else know. My name is Bobby, and this has been these Totally Geeky Games on Throw Punch Lunch. Bye.
Hey folks, welcome to another Accessorize segment. Here I am continuing my coverage of the products that you can get from GameMat.eu, a Czech Republic-based company that has a website where you can get pre-painted terrain and custom battle mats for your games and use them for a number of different games. But anyway, I'm just going to showcase a couple of different products that they have for you today. First of all, I'm going to show you the double-sided, one of the 4x4 double-sided mats that they have available. And then I'm also going to show you the Highlands at War terrain set. And so that's what we're doing. Let's get down to the table and take a look. So the Highlands terrain set comes with no less than 16 pieces of terrain. And this terrain, as you can see, is not small. It is a huge piece of resin, and you better make sure that you hold on to it pretty well because it's not dainty. This one doesn't even fit in the shot. It's so tall. Let me move it forward a little bit and you can kind of get the, yeah, that's not even close to getting it in the shot. I mean, it's close, but you get the idea. These things are huge, massive pieces of terrain, and it goes all the way down to, of course, these little rocks that are here. And these are not rocks. They are resin. So again, you can just see how detailed the resin molds are and how much they look like rocks. But again, these pieces are not small at all. The miniatures that I'm using, of course, are the Star Wars Legion miniatures game that just came out from FFG. So that gives you a little bit of idea of what the scale of these guys are. So it's a really cool set. I like it a lot. The rocks look amazing. The moss that is on all of these rocks and different kinds of vegetation looks good, and I think it's going to be a really cool thing. Now, of course, these barricades are for Star Wars Legion. They're not part of the Highlands at War set. So that's about it for the stuff from GameMat.eu. I'm just continuing to show this off to you, and I probably will for the next couple of episodes, just until I've shown you everything that I've received from them in a little bit more detail. Now, concerning these things, I did a review of both of these products last week, so if you didn't catch that, go back and check it out, because I also did a waterproofing test, because they claim that this battle mat is waterproof, and I tested it on that review. So go check that out, and hey, we'll see you guys on the flip side. Let's get back to the rest of your lunch.
Welcome to another Boards Beyond Boards, a segment where we talk about games that are language independent or have very little language dependence. And today we're baking some pies on Pie Town from the Renegade Games. Pie Town is a worker dice placement game designed by Daniel Frigman, and it's for 2 to 6 players. The idea of the game is that you actually don't roll the dice. The dice will start with specific numbers, and you're going to place your dice around in different areas of the board. Will increase or decrease your dice. So you basically have your market where you're going to bake and bring your pies over here, and then you're going to be able to sell your pies over there. So you would be able to put your die in there and you take the action, you know, so get the bonus in there. You could go to the the pie conventions and reassign first player, gain one more on your die, or change one of your secret recipes and get -1 to your die there. Now you ask, what's a secret ingredient? So every player in the beginning of the game is going to choose their secret ingredients by reaching into the bag. And they're going to be able to make their secret ingredients using 2 common and 1 rare ingredient. And they don't want anybody to see that, so they're going to do that hidden, and then they'll put in the box. And that's a pie that they can build by their secret ingredients. Again, on the orchard, you're going to get +1, plus taking the ingredients that are adjacent to the place where you put in your dice. You can also go to your bakery and take different actions, like you can upgrade to spend at your storage area here. Right now you're maximum of 8, you can move to a maximum of 14, so you can increase the number of victory points that you get by baking pies, placing over there. You can unlock that so you can get more dice on that region as well. You can hire more workers, which are more dice, but once you do that, you get to go -2, so you have to have at least 3 in there to go down 1. You're gonna bake pies and take them to the market according to the ingredients you use to that, including your secret ingredients. One thing about the secret ingredients, you never want to go and just build it right there. You want to always to build like a couple pies at the same time, because you don't have to disclose which ingredients you use for each pie. You can just pour all the ingredients you had for all the pies and said, here, my 3 pies, the ingredients I'm using. So it gets a little more difficult for people to know your secret recipe. So if you're looking for a mid to lightweight dice placement that's fun, has a nice friendly gameplay, I would definitely indicate it Pie Town from Renegade Games. See you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Hey everyone, this is Tim Jennette the Metal Meeple, and this is the Budget Board Game Breakdown. So in this episode, we're taking a look at a small card game called Epic, the card game. This is not the box it actually comes in. This is an Ultra Pro Dual Deck box that I have cut the front and back off and taped it to the front and back, because I sleeved this game so it won't fit in the original box anymore, but it'll fit in this. This holds about 150 cards or something like that. Anyway, if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering, but you don't want to collect a bunch of cards and stuff like that, this is a really good alternative. This has 120 unique cards. Let me show you this. It has 120 unique cards. There's no repeats. There's 4 different colors, red, blue, green, yellow. And if you're familiar with Magic, the game plays very similar. Instead of casting cost, you either have a 0 or you're going to have a 1, because on your turn you have 1 gold basically to spend. You can play as many zeros as you want, but you can only play 1 gold worth of characters. Or not characters, but just cards. There are champions and there are events, so there's only 2 different card types. And you can see that they have the attack value and the defense value. You've got 1 of 4 different alignments up here, blue, green, red, yellow. You've got all their special abilities. And if you're familiar with Magic, like I said, you're going to be playing cards. You're going to try to attack the opponent. They have 30 life. And if you take them out, you win the game. All the special abilities are very similar to that of Magic as well, such as Breakthrough, which is like Trample. So if you attack and you're blocked, any additional damage that this champion would do, it flows over to the person, to the player. You've got Airborne, which is flight. Blitz means they can attack when they come out, because normally they can't. You've got Ambush, which will allow you to play this champion like an event, so you can play it during your opponent's turn, rather than just during your turn. You got different, you can recall it back from your graveyard. These events, you have either or, so you can cast and do one of the different abilities. Tribute just happens when it comes into play, so this will draw you a card. You've got this symbol that mimics what tapping would do. You just turn the card sideways. So there's tons and tons of creatures, and basically what this coin system does is eliminate the need for resources. And you don't need to play land cards and stuff like that. You can just start playing, and then really first turn, you're playing some of the most epic cards ever that you would play in Magic, right? Because everything in this game is epic. You feel like every card is overpowered. Every card played against you feels overpowered, but you're doing the same thing back and forth. The game's very quick, 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, depending on what's going on, but it's just awesome. What I really like about the game is how much you can do with it just out of the box, right? As far as drafting and making decks and stuff. Because you can just give somebody 30 cards. That's not going to be the most balanced thing, but it is a very fast way to learn the game. Here's 30 cards, here's 30 cards. Let's just play, and I'll explain while we do it. You can also take, there's 4 colors, so you can take all 30 cards of that color and give it to each player. And then, you can play 4 players that way, do a little tournament. You can also set up 10 card packs. You just shuffle the whole deck, put out 3 10-card packs, give them to each player or whatever, and they can do like a draft pack, how you would do it like a booster draft. So you take a card, pass it, take a card, pass it. You can also put 4 cards out. This works really well with 2 players, where one player is going to draw or pick one of those 4 cards. The other player will pick 2, and then the first player will pick 1, and then you reverse it and you just keep doing it. I mean, there's so much you can do with this. You can add multiple copies of the game to actually do block tournaments and stuff like that. It's just, I showed this to somebody that I work with who is really enamored with Magic the Gathering, and this worked really well for them because you can play it with the same people over and over, and since you're playing the same cards, you don't have to like deck build against each other. You could just draft new cards next time. You can just play this over and over and still get a different feeling, and the fact that it has 120 unique cards just makes it last that much longer. There's other expansions and stuff. I haven't touched any of that, but I've been content with what this comes with for a very reasonable price. So check it out. If you have any questions or comments about the game, please post them below. Email me at timjennette@gmail.com. Follow me on social media. Check out my podcast, Meeplecore. And until next time, keep on rocking and rolling dice.
Hello fellow Throat Punch launchers, this is Paweł from Geek Factor from Poland. Now, last time I was here, I was talking about publishers that come from Poland, because I'm sure there are a lot of games that that started their journey right here in Poland that maybe you're not aware of, that actually that they come from here. So I want to talk about various publishers, Polish publishers who are making more and more waves all over the world. Now, the first publisher I want to talk to you about is not 100% Polish, and by that I mean that some of the people working there are not Polish. They're a very largely international crew. Also, the owner is from France. The publisher is Lucky Duck Games, famous for publishing Vikings Gone Wild, and most recently they're famous. They had a very huge hit on Kickstarter called Chronicles of Crime. Congratulations for that campaign. Now, but the idea, the entire publisher was born here in Poland. The idea started in Poland, and a lot of the work is done here in Poland. So that's Lucky Duck Games. Another publisher I want to talk to you about is Galacta, which is famous in Poland for bringing Fantasy Flight games here from the States, publishing them in Polish. But they've made quite a few games that you might have heard of. Games like Hidden Assassins, made by a colleague of mine, Łukasz Łuki-Woźniak, or most recently Age of Thieves. They're also the international distributor of This War of Mine, and I'm sure they're coming to Kickstarter with something big pretty soon, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. Another publisher is from Poznań. This is a Cube Factory of Ideas. They are famous here in Poland for bringing games from Platehead Games, for example, publishing them in Polish, or publishing Century right here, Spice Road here in Poland. But they are making more and more games and publishing them worldwide. Most recently, and I think most successfully, was Sanctuary Endangered Species, which is a very cool, very interesting, very original Euro worker placement game by Przemek Wojtkowiak. A very strong debut for him. Congratulations. It is a very, very good game. Be sure to check it out when you have a chance. Another publisher is Granna, which interestingly began their career as a manufacturing company for board games. But then they began to publish board games. They began with a lighter fare, some of the more kids-friendly, family-friendly stuff. But most recently they started to publish a bit heavier titles, their titles. I'm talking about Capital, where you're building Warsaw, the city building game. or most recently MS Battery, the 3D crime deduction game centered around a famous Polish cruiser from the 20th century. Now those games are very cool, but what's most cool about them to me is the topics. Warsaw, MS Battery. Those are Polish themes they are trying to make popular all over the world, and I salute Grana for that, because this is a very worthy notion in my opinion. Phalanx, another publisher I wanted to talk to you about, because they are famous for bringing a lot of games here to Poland. Most recently a very huge hit, Site. Phalanx most recently also had a huge hit on Kickstarter with U-Boat, which is like a World War II submarine simulator. I haven't played it myself, but from what I've heard from people who did play it, this is a very interesting, a very tense game, so be sure to be on the lookout for that when it comes out. And lastly, I wanted to talk to you about a publisher called Games Factory. Games Factory is known in Poland for bringing, that's what all they've done so far, is bring cool games from all over the world here to Poland. Games like Spartacus, Star Realms, Steampunk Rally, all those cool games found their way here, Not Alone, a great game. All those games found their way here in Poland thanks to them. But now they are beginning to make their own work, and they want to make their own name all over the world with a game called Solar City, a game that is coming to Kickstarter somewhere around May, June. Now Solar City is going to be a futuristic city building game, but the reason why I think you should pay attention to it is the designers. Viola Kijowska, Marcin Robka, those are the designers of a famous game called Alien Artifacts. I believe some of you may have heard about that game, and now they're coming with a brand new game, and Games Factory is going to be the publisher. They are going to publish it all over the world, They're going to publish it through Kickstarter, and I've played the very first prototype. I know the game changed a bit from that point, but just look at the designers, look at the publisher. This is going to be, I think this is going to be worth of your attention. That's it for now. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you, Sam Healey, for having me, and I hope to hear from you, to see you soon. See you next time. I'm Paweł from Geek Factor from Poland. Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cardboard Herald's Rook and Record here on Throat Punch Lunch, and we're getting ready for game night. And what's the big game that you're bringing? Well, of course, it's Star Wars Imperial Assault, because you want your Star Wars dungeon crawling adventures. And you're thinking to yourself, what sort of music am I going to listen to while playing Imperial Assault? And you might go to the classics. Yeah, the purist might go for Star Wars and the motion picture soundtrack. Back before it was even called A New Hope, you just had Star Wars, the motion picture soundtrack. And yeah, that's fine. That's okay. You can do that. But you could also be totally rad and pick the perfect album, which is Metallica's And Justice for All. Yeah, this thing is epic. It's over the top. It is self-serious in all the best of the ways. This is the combination of the old and new guard when it comes to Metallica. This is the transition phase when they got a little bit more self-aware and decidedly more artistic in their endeavors, and it is awesome. This is my entry point into Metallica, and it is also Jason Newsted's entry point into Metallica. Look how cute he is there. And yeah, I miss Cliff Burton. Cliff was amazing, but this is when all kinds of things changed for the band. They started becoming a little bit more socially conscious. They decided they were going to bring in a little bit more of the modern pop sphere that is going to harness all of their driving thrash metal tunes into something that would ultimately become things like the Black Album, which is a masterpiece in its own right. But the beginnings are right here. And it's got incredible tracks on it. It's got freaking Harvester of Sorrow and Justice for All, possibly the best Metallica song of all time. And it is the combination of that old and new that reflects what Star Wars is doing these days, and what is so fresh about Imperial Assault even a couple years after its release is that it feels like old Star Wars and new Star Wars. It's the combination of all those great elements, and it is epic. It is driving. It is forceful. It is something that feels like an all-out assault in the best of ways. So therefore, it is the perfect record to listen to while playing Imperial Assault. I said it. Alright everyone, that is our pick for the perfect album to listen to while playing Imperial Assault. What did you think of our pick? What do you think of Imperial Assault? And what do you think of freaking Metallica? Let us know in the comments below. On our channel, we got all kinds of other Rook and records and other stuff for you to check out. But for now, just thank you for watching Rook and Record here on Throat Punch Lunch. I've been Jack, and remember that the more that we do of these, the less bad music you will have to suffer at the table.
Hi, we're Boardgame Opinions. I'm Steve.
I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Mark.
And this month, our flavour of the month is photosynthesis. You can see it set out here. And photosynthesis is a game, probably with a theme that hasn't been done too much, about growing trees. Effectively, you're growing trees in this forest here. As the sun moves around the forest, different trees will get different amount of light. And you're using that light to grow more trees and eventually trying to score points. And the way you do that is every time the sun is in one of the 6 kind of corners of this hexagonal forest you've got here, it will shine light into the forest. So as it stands here, the sun's in this kind of side of the forest, and the light's pointing this way. So this tree will get some light, this tree will get some light, this tree and this tree and this tree will get light, this tree will get light, but trees behind it may become blocked. A bigger tree will block a wider spread of trees behind it, and what you're trying to do is maneuver your pieces in this forest to a point where you're getting light more than other people, so you can use that light more efficiently. Mark's got the player board here. You effectively accumulate the light points, and you can spend those light points to either increase the size of certain trees, increase the size of certain trees again to bigger trees, and eventually you're going to be using those light points to drop off seeds so you can make more trees, and then you're going to be harvesting your largest trees, so your trees that are effectively 3 big. When you harvest them, you look at where you've harvested from, and that will get you points based on how deep into the forest you are. So I've harvested from this square here, brilliant, I'm going to get 19 points. At the end of the game, the most points is the winner. What do we think, guys?
I think it's great. And one of the main reasons for that is it's just so thematic. As you said, it's an unusual theme, but not only that, it all makes sense. Like, in order to grow, trees need light, and the more light you get access to, the more resources you have. It's kind of a resource management game, effectively, to spend on planting new seeds, casting them in various areas of the forest, building up your bigger trees and trying to harvest the points. Everything just makes sense. It's so easy to explain, this one, I find.
I mean, we saw it first at Essen, and it's one of those games that's just laid out on a table and everybody wants to look and point and pick up, and I mean, they're only cardboard trees, but 2 bits of cardboard, but they look so good out. And as you say, because it all works and it all flows together, it's really easy to teach people because they understand from the off you're trying to make trees bigger. It's a simple, but it makes that concept so much easier for new players, that it's got a far wider range, and something that equally is like it's complicated, just because they understand from the off what they're trying to do.
I think Mark's very right there in terms of the visually outstanding displays. When all the trees, and you've got all 4 players with the 4 different colours, you get like those shades that you get in autumn. Maybe not necessarily the blue trees, but the other trees themselves give, you know, a really nice visual appeal to it. I found it also, it's quite tactical in terms of trying to predict what other people are going to grow and block you in. If they block you, you need to grow your tree taller so that you're not getting blocked out anymore, because if you've got a taller tree, they don't block your light. But trying to predict in 2 turns time where the sun's going to be, so that you can have a tree, you planted a seed here, and so in 2 turns time I can have grown that, so it's going to start getting me light straight away.
It's much deeper than it appears, I think, because you look at it and think, oh yeah, it's a fairly straightforward game, plant some trees, move about, and after a few turns, like, oh hang on, I've really done myself in there, because the sun moves around. Like, I know the sun moves around, but you somehow forget because there's so many things to take account of.
You end up blocking yourself in sometimes.
That's right. And you've really got to go for, because these points, they reduce as you go through the stack, so you are racing to get the good spots. But when you harvest your big trees, you're not getting as many light points to spend on other things. So that timing for quite when you want to harvest the trees and when you want to plant them is really tricky. It's really
nice to have that bit of extra interaction, so about blocking light, and other players can do you in, and how they tactically spend their points can affect you. So it's not the case it's always going to grow. They might not choose, they might choose specifically to do you in. But it means there's more to it than just everybody solitarily doing their own thing.
Yeah, so it has more interaction than a lot of games of this weight and this ilk, and if you like that sort of thing and you like the theme, I think this is going to be a great game for you. I've been Steve.
I'm Jonathan.
I'm Mark.
And thanks for watching.
Hi, I'm Doug Jr.
And I'm Doug the Third.
And we're from Doug and Doug Gaming. Now, we're excited to be a part of Throat Punch Lunch this week. Thank you so much, Sam Healey, for letting us be a contributor. We're going to have a segment that's going to talk about something very special to gamers, and that is the gaming group. In fact, we're going to call this a Fellowship of Meeples.
From countries and counties far and near, they answer the subtle call. The invitation to worlds unknown, from Karuba to Toxic Mall. Though maybe unknown to one another, a motley band of peoples, they answer the call, come one, come all, to a fellowship of Meeples.
Well, our segment will be dealing with the board gaming community, specifically the board game group. Now, we all like to play board games or we wouldn't be here. But who do you play with and where do you play them? Well, we're very lucky here in that we have a great FLGS that we're able to play at. And if you've been on the board game forums, you know that FLGS stands for, of course...
Friendly Little German Salesman.
Of course not. Actually, it stands for Friendly Local Game Store. And we have a great friendly local game store right here in our town of Crestview, Florida. But we had our game night last night, and we went to the friendly local game store. It's called the Game Masters Guild. I got there a little early, and Sophia was there, and she's one of our game group people. And so she and I played a two-player game for a little while, Hanamakoji, which I love this game. It's a very simple, very straightforward little two-player game, but we played several rounds of this while we were waiting for others in our game group to show up. A little bit later, our friend Ben showed up, and Kevin, and so we played a little bit of Zero, because it plays a lot of people.
Love this game.
It's a great game, some beautiful artwork, and it plays, I think, up to two to eight players, people. Yep. So it's a good game for that. So we had a lot of fun with that. And then we played one of Ben's games, a game called Dice Forge, which some of you may be familiar with. It was a lot of fun as well. I don't have that one myself, but you can see some footage of it. And so we had a really good time. The Game Masters Guild offers us a place to bring our games or to borrow their games, a place to go and play absolutely free. We can go in there and they will let us use our table space for free. Some game stores will charge a little bit of a fee in order to let you use their facilities, and that's perfectly reasonable as long as the fee's not too high. We also like to try to do business with them as much as we can. They sell snacks, and of course they do sell games, and I love looking at the games. You and I always spend a little time before we play kind of shopping.
Oh yeah, in between games too. We'll take a break, you know, get some snacks, go out and look at some more games and hang out.
Exactly.
It's a game sanctuary, if you will.
It is.
Everyone's invited. So between the two of us, we're actually very curious about how you guys do gaming. Do you play at your house? Do you play at a coffee shop? Leave it in a comment down below and just let people know, you know, how you do it. Maybe you'll give someone else a good idea and really inspire another gaming community to happen.
Exactly. Some of you may have ideas that we've never thought of, so we would love to hear from you. Please let us know. So just to give you a heads up, in future episodes of A Fellowship of Meeples, we're going to be discussing all things game group. Most of all, we want to talk about the people that are in your game groups, the people that are in our game groups. We want to introduce you to them. We're going to interview them. We're going to let you find out who they are, where they're from, how they got here, why are they a part of this game group, what worked for us to get them out. And we hope that you'll watch each and every episode. So until we see you next time, I'm Doug Jr.
And I'm Doug the Third.
Bye-bye.
This is Roy Cannaday from Epic Gaming Night, and this is Why It's There, where I take a look at a game in my collection and see why it stayed around on my shelf. This week I'm talking about a game where you can be an agent sneaking around a facility trying to complete objectives, or you can be a team of hunters trying to stop that agent from taking out those objectives and knock them out before they can escape the facility. And that is Spectre Ops. I've played a lot of different hidden movement games where you're trying to, one player has a notepad and they're like trying to to write down the mysterious places that they're going around the board, and then the other players are trying to search them out. But Spectre Ops is definitely my overall favorite. I just love the fact that there's crazy different special powers you can have in the game with all the different hunters, and it's really cool how, like other hidden movement games, you can like sneak around and like hide in different places, but this one just feels so like freeform and open, and just like seems like it's very simplified but also like great. I love the fact that like also just if you get found out, it's just not automatically over. They have to like jump on you and pounce on you as the hunters and like try to attack you and take you out, and make sure that they can corner you in the correct way so they can find you multiple times to be able to track you down, or just like find you the once and everybody dogpile you. I've had tons of crazy games of Spectre Ops which have been a blast, where I've been on the hunter side and like trying to math out where the agent is as you're looking around. And it's really fun to like play with one of your friends, and you have the one friend over there who's being all sneaky with the notepad, and you're just like, okay, well we saw him there and we think he went over here, but that's what he wants us to think. So he probably just stayed where he's at, or he like hid around another corner because that's what he thinks we wouldn't think he would do. And it's like cool that you can puzzle those things out and like work together as a team and figure those things out. And it just is great when it comes to fruition, and you can just put the plan together. It's like, okay, I'm gonna step over here and look, and if he's not in that location, we know he's in that location. So it just makes it really cool puzzle to like try to figure out. And then on the opposite side of that, I've had a blast playing the agent as well, because it's like this tense game of like trying to figure out how you're gonna hit the agendas. Are you gonna go for this one first or go over there? And if you move too fast, they'll be able to use the sensor on the car to be able to like figure out where you are. And it's like, am I gonna like stay still and try to like let them run past? When am I gonna like, because a lot of times people will make it, there's a lot of like line of sight rules where if they're like looking down this like corridor, they'll be able to see you. It's like, do I play a special power to try to like sneak by them still? Or do I make a break for it even though they're gonna see me now? Can I like outrun them or be far enough away that I can still sneak into the shadows? Or do you just like stand still and let people walk by you and then sneak around the corner? Like there's all sorts of crazy things in this game which make it super exciting and tense as you're playing the agent. And the powers are the main thing that I love about this game. I love playing the beast because he has like this smelling power. If he's super close, he can be notified that he's actually close to him, and he can jump on people with the claws and do extra damage and things like that if he lands directly on people. And then the puppet lets you like use the car a whole lot more. It's just a lot of fun playing Spectre Ops, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. It's in my top 10. So if you're into hidden movement, definitely check out Spectre Ops, and it's definitely gonna stay on my shelf.
Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm here to bring you another episode of Solo-Thrash, Amerithrash gaming for those of us who like to play alone. Today I want to talk to you about solo games that feature my absolute favorite game mechanic, deck building. If it's a deck builder, I will probably buy it and try it because I like to deck build that much. But I'm going to tell you today my current top 3 solo deck builders. The first game I want to talk about is not brand new, but it's not ancient either. It's Legendary Encounters, an alien deck building adventure. And that's sort of an unwieldy name, but the game is great. In Legendary Encounters, you're actually able to complete scenarios that take you all the way through the 4 Alien movies. Or you can mix and match different characters and objectives to create your own adventure. If you really want to be hardcore about it, you can even take Ripley from each of the different movies and just play with all of her character cards, which is kind of weird, but also really awesome. I think that Legendary Encounters is probably the most thematic deck builder I've ever played. I would say that just the tension that comes from knowing that any enemy card you turn over could be a face hugger that if you can't get rid of turns into a chest burster, which is definitely like a death sentence for you, adds a whole lot of tension to the game and forces a kind of advanced planning that not all deck builders can get out of you. I also love the coordinate mechanics, so if you're going to play solo, definitely play two-handed so you can work with that. The second solo deck building game that I want to highlight today is Baseball Highlights 2045. I've actually talked about it on Solo-Thrash before, and it's just a game that I really love. It is a baseball game that's set in a future where a lot of baseball players are either robots or they're cyborgs. And, this makes baseball a lot more exciting and a lot more challenging for the natural players who are still fully human when they play. Baseball Highlights is not pure deck building. It's essentially a series of mini games where you start with a weaker team and you play a simulated baseball game against an AI deck. Then in between each game in your World Series, you get to purchase new teammates to replace older, weaker ones on your team. And I just find that mechanic really fascinating. I love trying to strategize against the AI, which can be surprisingly difficult. And it's just really quick, fun, and satisfying. It's a game that works really well, and I highly recommend you try it, whether or not you like baseball. And the last solo playable deck building game that I want to feature today is Aeon's End. In Aeon's End, you are playing a breach mage who teams up with one or more other breach mages to take on a giant boss monster. And the game has so much variety and setup. There are plenty of different bosses to choose from. There are plenty of different mages to choose from. And in the market that you buy from for each game is also variable. So there are just endless permutations of the game to play. The other thing that makes it excellent in terms of strategizing is that in most deck builders, when you run out of cards, you just shuffle your deck and you get a new random assortment of cards. In Aeon's End, you don't shuffle your cards. So what that means is that you're constantly trying to set up interesting combinations, because if you're counting, you should know what's coming up next, and you should know which cards that you're putting together to draw in the future. So it adds this really interesting layer of strategy and challenge to the game. I'm also really looking forward to Aeon's End Legacy, which was just funded on Kickstarter, because in the Legacy version of the game, you're going to get to start with a novice breach mage and make that character more interesting and powerful over the course of the game. Then you'll be able to play with the character that you made in the previous editions of the game. So there's Aeon's End, and there's also Aeon's End War Eternal, which is like a standalone expansion for the game. So there's plenty of material for it. It's all interesting and fun, and I'm a big fan. So if you're looking for a solo deck builder to play, I hope I've given you some pretty good options. Happy gaming.
Hey everybody, Even Steven here. Last week we had Sarah and Haley on, two non-gamers, to pick out a game from my shelf and see what they thought. We had Elkfest and we had Santorini. Now next Throw Punt Lunch we're going to look at what they thought of those two games that they picked off my shelf. But this week I wanted to focus on something different. Do board games covers matter? Clearly for the non-gamers in the test that I did where they just picked a game off of my shelf knowing nothing about it, they chose based on the cover alone. What about gamers though? Do we care about what's on the cover? Let's look at the BGG's top 10 and see if those covers even matter at all. Let's get to it. First we have number 1, Gloomhaven. Pretty good generic fantasy artwork here, very clear. It's intriguing. How can I explore this town? Makes you want to play this game. Pandemic Legacy. Shows a girl with a mask on. You know, it's something about disease and doctors. And again, pretty decent. Through the Ages. Doesn't show you much about the game, but some historical figures. Again, great gameplay here. Deep gameplay from Valdés Shavato. Twilight Struggle. We have a guy, a historical figure. You can see the barbed wire fence between them. Shows a Cold War struggle, so you know immediately what's it about. Terraforming Mars. You know this one is about space. Again, nothing really stands out here but the two astronauts on Mars. Star Wars Rebellion. Shows the light side versus the dark side, the Empire versus the Rebellion. Pretty good cover here with Vader especially. Scythe. You can't not like Scythe's artwork. 19th century alternate Europe, a history, the mech in the background really makes you wonder what's in this box. Rounding out the end of our list, we have Terra Mystica. Generic fantasy again, doesn't show much artwork at all to be honest, so it's basically going by hoping you know the gameplay of Terra Mystica itself. Great Western Trail shows an American cowboy, a mogul, a miner. Hopefully you know it's about cattle as well, which doesn't show in the cover. Seven Wonders Duel, great ancient artwork showing you the wonders. Very good artwork here that really makes you want to dive in. Okay, there we looked at BGG's top 10 cover arts, which really shows that maybe what's inside the box is what matters to us gamers, but for non-gamers, maybe what's outside the box, the cover itself, is what matters to them, because if they have known nothing about the game itself, that's all that they have to go on. So I think it's really important for companies to look at, if you're trying to put your game and advocate it to non-gamers, the cover really needs to stand out for them. Whereas if you're making a maybe mid to heavyweight Euro game, maybe they realize that the cover doesn't really matter that much, and that they don't have to put a lot of money towards it to entice people to play it, because what is inside the box in the gameplay is what gamers care about. It's just an interesting discussion topic. Let me know in the comments below. Should companies care about the cover art? Does it matter, you as a gamer, when you look at it and purchase it? Does that influence your decision? I want to know what you think. Now, this weekend I was in Washington, D.C. and looking at a game store there, so I wanted to show you what I went inside and some covers that I thought were really cool. Also, remember, next week, Sarah and Haley are going to be back, and we're going to look at Santorini and Elkfest, the games that they picked, to see what they thought. We'll see you next time, guys.
Happy lunchtime everyone, I'm the Broken Meeple and this is the Starting Tile, your source for new and obscure gateway games. Well, obscure now and again anyway. Today we're taking a look at hedge trimming. Such a great fun theme, that's exactly what you want in a board game, isn't it? Hedge trimming. Well, it's more about hedge sculptures to be exact, and this is Topiary. This is a relatively new game from a designer who's done his own artwork, and it's basically a very quick, simple meeple placement game where you are surrounding a grid of tiles that all have various hedge sculptures on them. I believe Topiary is like the name for that style of artwork, but basically think of like a hedge trimmed into the shape of a T-Rex, for example, which, to be fair, sounds pretty awesome. And with this, you have a grid of these tiles, and you will have a hand of tiles as well, so that you can use to kind of vary your moves with. You will place one of your meeples around this grid, either in a horizontal, vertical, or diagonal line. And the idea is what you're trying to do is, as you flip the tiles over, which you can do each turn, you are trying to get your meeples to look down through the grid and see as many sculptures as possible. So what you want is to have a small sculpture in front of you with a bigger one behind it and then an even bigger one behind that. There are lots of different sculptures, you know, like T-Rexes and bobble trees and whales, that kind of thing, and they range in order from 1 to 5 based on their size. However, while you're trying to set up your meeples in this fashion, your opponents are also trying to do the same in this communal garden. And obviously your moves will mess up them, vice versa. They will try and stick hedges in your way. They will nick your places. You can only have one meeple per spot. And it's a very simple, quick 15 to 20 minute game. And I kid you not, this is one of those games that would definitely suit a board game cafe or a library of some extent, because this is a pick up and play game. I've literally just took it to a charity event, put it on the table, read the rules, took me less than 5 minutes, got the game going, we finished in 15 to 20 minutes. It's ridiculous how easy this game is. The rules for playing the game, as in the turn sequence, are actually half the length and size of the scoring at the end. There's more rules telling you how to score this game than there is how to play it. That's how dirt simple it is. And, you know, there's not a huge amount in the box. I mean, you know, you can hear stuff in there, but it's basically a bunch of tiles and some meeples. And the meeples are good quality. You even get a wheelchair meeple, which is kind of odd. You know, that's the first game I've seen where wheelchair meeples are used. But credit to, you know, Renegade and who else did it? Fever Games for actually considering that sort of thing. You know, wheelchair meeples, nice little touch. The artwork is really beautiful to look at, especially for me. I love the color green, so this pretty much sings to me with a grid of green everywhere. But it can be quite a mean and nasty game in some respects, because you're trying to set up your positions, but you're also messing up your opponents. You might do it deliberately or inadvertently, and they're doing it back to you. But it's not so mean that it's off-putting, because after all, it's 15 to 20 minutes. You are done and dusted in such a short space of time that you could easily just set it up and go again. Or if you were just using this as a quick filler, you've done and dusted in the 20 minutes. Oh look, next big game now. This is about as watertight a gateway level game as you can get. And definitely one that you should consider if you either like the theme or you really just want something that is so simple you can get any gamer, regardless of how new they are, to try and learn about, say, I suppose you could call it closer to worker placement and area control. That's about as close as I think of the theme for this one. So that is Topyri, and that is another episode of the Starting Tile. Now, I want your feedback, guys, on what you want to see from this series going forward. You know, I want to try new things. I want to update, you know, as I go along. Do you like this format? You know, just me, here's a game, let me talk about it for 4 minutes. Or do you want to see a different take on gateway games? Obviously, keep this to gateway games. That's the whole point of it being called the Starting Tile, after all. But let me know your thoughts. Read them put them in the comments on YouTube, send me an email, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, and just let me know. What would you like to see out of the Starting Tile going forward? Okay, you know, you happy with this format? Or do you want to see something different? I'm all ears. All hedges, I know, bad joke. Anyway, that's it from me. See you on the next Starting Tile, and enjoy your lunch.
And so that is that for another Throat Punch Lunch episode. It is in the books, y'all. Thanks so much for joining us here. We certainly appreciate the time that you take out of your schedule to watch the content that we're providing for you. So we are eternally grateful. We thank you so much. And don't forget, email me right down here and let me know any of these new segment ideas that you might have. It could be, just keep in mind that the new segment idea that you have actually isn't new. It's one that's already been done or something like that. We don't want to replicate anything that's being done on any of the other shows on this site either. So keep that in mind as well. So just let us know, of course, let us know in the comments what you think of all the different contributors this week, and we will always read those comments as much as we possibly can. So you are not just talking to dead air at that point. We do read your comments. We do listen to what you have to say. We might not agree with you, but we do read it, we do listen to it, and more often than not, we respond as well. So let us know in the comments what you think. Send me those emails about new segment ideas, and we'll see you guys on the flip side. Take care.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.